It's week 18 of the NFL season, and here are my predictions for this week. But first, how did I do in week 17? In week 17, I was 9-7 in my predictions. And before getting into the video, I just want to say Happy New Year to everyone watching. I hope you all have an amazing 2024, and let's get back into the video. Starting off on Saturday, we have the 9-7 Steelers versus the 13-3 Ravens. The Steelers are coming off of a 30-23 win over the Seahawks. In that game, Mason Rudolph completed 18 of 24 passes for 274 yards. Najee Harris had 122 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. And George Pickens had 7 receptions for 131 yards. And with that win over the Seahawks, the Steelers are still very much alive in the playoff race. The Steelers will clinch the playoffs if they beat the Ravens and the Bills lose to the Dolphins. And for the Ravens, they beat the Miami Dolphins 56-19 and have clinched the number 1 seed in the AFC. And in that game, Lamar Jackson was amazing, completing 18 of 21 passes for 321 yards and 5 touchdowns. But I think the Steelers are going to win. Next, the 9-7 Texans versus the 9-7 Colts. This is a huge game. The winner of this game will clinch the playoffs and have a chance to win their division if the Jaguars lose. The Texans are coming off of a 26-3 win over the Titans. CJ Stroud completed 24 of 32 passes for 213 yards and a touchdown. And Nico Collins had 7 receptions for 80 yards. And the Colts are coming off of a 23-20 win over the Raiders. And Gardner Minshew completed 15 of 23 passes for 224 yards and a touchdown. And Jonathan Taylor had 96 yards rushing and a touchdown. I think this is going to be a very close game, but I have the Texans winning. Next, the 11-5 Browns versus the 8-8 Bengals. This game has no meaning towards the playoffs since the Browns have clinched the 5 seed and the Bengals are eliminated from the playoffs. This week the Browns are starting Jeff Driscoll at quarterback and will be their 5th starter of the season. And they could potentially be the first team in NFL history to have 5 different quarterbacks get a win. But last week the Browns won 37-20 against the Jets. Joe Flacco had 309 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception, and David Njoku had 6 receptions for 134 yards. And the Bengals lost 25-17 to the Chiefs, and I think the Browns are going to win. Next, the 8-8 Buccaneers versus the 2-14 Panthers. If the Buccaneers win this game, they will win their division. And the Panthers have secured the worst record in the NFL, but the Bears are going to get the number 1 overall pick because they traded this year's first-round pick to the Bears for the number 1 overall pick last year. The Buccaneers are coming off of a 23-13 loss to the Saints. But Baker Mayfield still had a good game. He completed 22 of 33 passes for 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And Trey Palmer led them with 4 receptions for 84 yards and a touchdown. And the Panthers are coming off of a 26-0 loss, and the Buccaneers will win. Next, the 7-9 Vikings versus the 11-5 Lions. For the Vikings to clinch the playoffs, they need to beat the Lions and the Packers to lose and the Seahawks to lose to the Cardinals, and the Saints need to lose to the Falcons. And the Lions have already won their division and have clinched a top 3 seed. The Vikings are coming off of a 33-10 loss to the Packers, and the Lions are coming off of a 20-19 loss to the Cowboys. And that game had a crazy ending, with the Lions getting a 2-point conversion, but it was waved off because of a illegal touching, because the Lions offensive lineman did not report eligible, but I still think the Lions are going to win this week. Next, the 6-10 Jets versus the 4-12 Patriots. Both of these teams have been eliminated from the playoffs, but last week the Jets lost 37-20 to the Browns. In that game, Breece Hall had 84 yards rushing and 9 receptions for 42 yards and a touchdown. And the Patriots lost 27-21 to the Bills. And Bailey Zappi had 209 yards and 3 interceptions. But I think the Patriots are going to win. Next, the 7-9 Falcons versus the 8-8 Saints. Both of these teams need a win to stay in the playoff contention. The Falcons need to win, and the Buccaneers need to lose for them to make playoffs. And the Saints need to win, or they need to win, and the Packers need to lose, and the Seahawks need to lose. The Falcons are coming off of a 37-17 loss to the Bears, where Taylor Heineke had 163 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions, and Bijan Robinson had 15 carries for 75 yards. And the Saints are coming off of a 23-13 win over the Buccaneers. Derek Carr completed 24 of 32 passes for 197 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think the Saints are going to win. Next, the 9-7 Jaguars versus the 5-11 Titans. The Jaguars clinched the playoffs with a win this week. They are coming off a 26-0 win over the Panthers. And Travis Etienne Jr. had 102 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. And the Titans lost 26-3 to the Texans. And in that game, DeAndre Hopkins had 7 receptions for 72 yards. And I have the Jaguars winning. Next, the 8-8 Seahawks versus the 4-12 Cardinals. The Seahawks clinched the playoffs with a win over the Cardinals and the Packers losing to the Bears. The Seahawks are coming off of a 30-23 loss to the Steelers. In that game, Geno Smith had 290 yards and 1 touchdown, and DK Metcalf had 5 receptions for 106 yards. And the Cardinals have been eliminated from the playoffs, but they are coming off of a 35-31 win over the Eagles. Kyler Murray completed 25 of 31 passes for 232 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. And James Conner had 128 yards and a touchdown. And I have the Cardinals winning. Next, the 7-9 Bears versus the 8-8 Packers. The Bears are coming off of a 37-17 win over the Falcons. Justin Fields had 268 yards and a touchdown. Khalil Herbert had 124 yards rushing and a touchdown. And DJ Moore had 9 receptions for 159 yards and a touchdown. And the Packers are coming off of a 33-10 win over the Vikings. And the Packers will clinch the playoffs with a win this week. In the game versus the Vikings, Jordan Love had 256 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Aaron Jones had 120 yards rushing. But I have the Bears winning. Next, the 10-6 Chiefs versus the 5-11 Chargers. The Chiefs have clinched the playoffs, and the Chargers are eliminated. The Chiefs won last week 25-17 over the Bengals. Patrick Mahomes was 21 of 29 passing for 245 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Pacheco had 130 yards rushing, and Rashee Rice had 5 receptions for 127 yards. And the Chargers lost 16-9 to the Broncos. And I have the Chiefs winning. Next, the 8-8 Broncos versus the 7-9 Raiders. Both of these teams have been eliminated from the playoffs, but the Broncos won 16-9 last week over the Chargers. And Jared Stidham had 224 yards and a touchdown. And the Raiders lost 23-20 to the Colts. Aiden O'Connell completed 30 of 47 passes for 299 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Devontae Adams had 13 receptions for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I have the Broncos winning. Next, the 11-5 Eagles versus the 5-11 Giants. The Eagles have clinched the playoffs, and the Giants have been eliminated. But the Eagles still need to win this game to be able to win their division, since the Cowboys own the tiebreaker. The Eagles are coming off of a 35-31 loss to the Cardinals. Jalen Hurts completed 18 of 23 passes for 167 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. And the Giants are coming off of a 26-25 loss to the Rams. Tyrod Taylor had a great game, having 319 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, and Darius Slayton had 4 receptions for 106 yards and a touchdown, and I have the Eagles winning. Next, the 9-7 Rams versus the 12-4 49ers. The Rams won 26-25 last week over the Giants. Matthew Stafford had 317 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions, and Kyron Williams had 87 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Puka Nacua had 5 receptions for 118 yards. and now has 101 receptions and 1,445 yards in his rookie season. And the 49ers are coming off of a 27-10 win over the Commanders and have clinched the number 1 seed in the NFC. Brock Purdy completed 22 of 28 passes for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Brandon Ayuk had 7 receptions for 114 yards and a touchdown, and I have the 49ers winning. Next, the 11-5 Cowboys versus the 4-12 Commanders. If the Cowboys win this game, they win their division. The Cowboys won last week 20-19 over the Lions. Dak Prescott had 345 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, and CeeDee Lamb had 13 receptions for 227 yards and a touchdown, and he set a new franchise record for the Cowboys for receiving yards in a season, with 1,651 yards. And the Commanders lost 27-10 last week to the 49ers. And in that game, Sam Howell threw 2 interceptions and now leads the league with 19. And I have the Cowboys winning. Next, on Sunday Night Football, the 10-6 Bills versus the 11-5 Dolphins. The winner of this game wins the AFC East, and the loser will be the wild card team. But if the Bills lose, they still could miss the playoffs. The Bills are coming off a 27-21 win over the Patriots. In that game, Josh Allen had 169 yards and an interception, and 44 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns. And the Dolphins are coming off of a 56-19 loss to the Ravens. Tua had 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Devin Achane had 107 yards rushing, and Tyreek Hill had 6 receptions for 76 yards, and is now the first player in NFL history to have back-to-back 1,700-yard seasons. And I think the Bills are going to win. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. Goodbye.